She was given 6 objects and chose the wrong one. That is how you become the cosmic herald of Targon, not through sacrifice, not through the Dakami mountain's trial that breaks most people before they reach the summit, not through years of bodied training or the accumulation of power through suffering. You grab the toy ball, kick it into the petrate side of a building, while the angry monks scatter and laugh at their expressions while a divine aspect watches from somewhere above and decides, yes, that one. That is exactly what we need. The aspect of Twilight has been doing this for a very long time. It knows something about what Watcher Zakwakim. The universe requires that the universe has not fully explained to anyone else. Her name is Zoe. She is the Herald. She has been gone for thousands of years and returned, without aging a day, and she is, depending on the moment and your proximity to her, the most delightful or the most catastrophic thing you have ever encountered. Sometimes both at the same time, usually both at the same time. New here? Subscribe. Every week, a League of Legends story, told the way it deserves to be heard. The Lunari who taught her had specific and consistent observations about what she was. Imaginative, they said, which was accurate and also the most polite available framing of the less laddering details. Stubborn, lazy when the subject did not hold her attention, which was most subjects. Easily distracted in the specific way that people are easily distracted when the available material is less interesting than what their mind is already doing on its own. Mischievous, the kind of mischievous that is not malicious but is thoroughly indifferent to whether the mischief causes problems for anyone else in the immediate area. She skipped sacred spell class because she was looking for something less boring to do. This is the full context for how the aspect of Twilight found her. Not at the peak of achievement, not in a moment of transcendent spiritual clarity. In the middle of a chase scene, Zoe running from the Lunari teachers whose class she had just abandoned, the teachers furious in the specific way that people are furious when someone treats something they find sacred as a slow inconvenience to be avoided, Zoe treating the whole thing as entertainment. The aspect watched this for a while. It presented 6 objects when the teachers had her cornered. 5 of them were practical. A bag of coins. You could bribe, negotiate, make a distraction, a sword. The situation had become physical enough that this was relevant. A textbook with all the exercises completed. Hand it over. Demonstrate that you had done the work. Diffuse the immediate authority crisis. A prayer rug. Appeal to the shared spiritual framework. A silk rope. Several applications, most of them involving not being where the teachers could reach you. The 6th was a ball. Zoe did not hesitate. She did not assess the situation and determine that the ball was somehow the optimal tool for her circumstances. She grabbed it because it was a ball and she wanted to, kick it, and she kicked it into the wall of the adjacent building and sang cheerful songs while it bounced among the scattered monks, and the aspect of Twilight felt something it recognized as delight. The dimensional gate opened. Zoe jumped through it backwards, sticking her tongue out at the low teachers on the way. She has not apologized for any of this. Here is what the aspect of Twilight was actually selecting for, and it requires understanding what the aspect is before the selection makes sense. Targon's aspects are not simply powerful entities who have chosen human hosts. They are cosmic forces that have taken on the project of maintaining, disrupting, and periodically reshaping the fundamental patterns that govern reality. The aspect of Twilight specifically is responsible for change, not the gentle kind of change that systems produce when they operate normally, but the structural kind. The kind that rewrites the mathematics underlying how things work. This requires a particular quality in a herald. Not obedience. An obedient herald would wait for instructions, would assess the situation against known parameters, would produce the expected output. That is useful for many purposes and almost entirely useless for the specific purpose of grammators. Disrupting the patterns that everyone else assumes are fixed. You cannot challenge an Iraq assumption while operating inside it. What you need instead is someone whose relationship with the expected is so naturally adversarial that they will kick the ball when 5 more sensible options are available. Someone who will take the game seriously only when the game is actually interesting, and who defines interesting in terms that the game's designers did not anticipate. Someone whose presence in a Lua finds system immediately begins producing outputs the system was not designed for. Someone, in short, who skips sacred spell class because she has better things to do. The aspect did not select Zoe despite her qualities. It selected her because of them. The distractibility, the stubbornness, the specific quality of mischief that has no malice but also no filter for whether the consequences are convenient for others. These are our blissar from the perspective of a force whose function is disruption, not bugs. They are the primary feature. The dimensions she traveled through in the time between her departure and her return are not mappable by any cartography that currently exists. She was gone for what amounted to thousands of years by Runeterra's reckoning. She returned without having aged a single day, which is the kind of detail that carries significant implications for what she experienced during that interval and what her relationship with time as a linear phenomenon currently looks like. She played games in realities that operate on different rules than the ones Runeterra assumes are universal. She encountered truths about the structure of Alawe existence that she has occasionally tried to explain to people, and that people have mostly been Mares, unable to receive. She is not troubled by this. She finds it interesting when people cannot follow what she is saying. She tries again from a different angle, sometimes from 17 different angles in rapid succession, which does not always help, but is at least never boring. Her own powers are, by this point, something that even her closest observers cannot fully account for. Her mere presence distorts the magical mathematics that underlies reality, not as a calculated action, but as a passive property of what she is. Things happen around her that would not happen otherwise, coincidences that are not quite coincidences, outcomes that should have been improbable arriving anyway. The specific quality of surprise that accumulates when the Kumsha universe's behavior in someone's vicinity is subtly different from what the equations would predict. She does not always intend this. She does not always notice it happening. The question of what she intends and what is simply the consequence of what she is has never been fully separable. This is the part that makes Zoe genuinely difficult to account for as either an ally or a threat. The joy is real. It is not a cover for something darker. There is no hidden wound underneath the praishaf, laughter, no suppressed grief beneath the mischief. She is what she appears to be, playful, curious, thoroughly delighted by existence, unable to stay in one emotional register for long, enough to be predicted. The danger is not that she is concealing malice. The danger is that the pull hayashti has she cosmic force she carries does not make a distinction between the harm it causes and the good it causes, because distinction is itself a pattern, and pattern is what it exists to disrupt. Aurelian's soul occupies a specific place in her social world that neither of them would characterize the same way. The cosmic dragon is ancient in a way that makes Zoe's thousands of years of extra-dimensional travel look recent. He is large, in the way that things which have been creating stars are large. He is proud in the way that things which know they are correct about their own importance are proud. And he is, from Zoe's perspective, almost entertainingly self-serious in a way that invites exactly the kind of interaction she specializes in. She teases him relentlessly. He endures it with the specific dignity of something that is not going to admit it notices her. She calls this friendship. He calls it whatever he calls it when he is not going, being called to account for calling it anything. When Pantheon's wrath threatened the cosmic dragon and the stars he had created, Zoe protected him. This is a fact. The reasons for the fact are considerably less clear. She herself, when pressed, gives different answers. Because she felt like it. Because the space foam needed protecting. Because disrupting Pantheon's plans was itself a form of the disruption she exists to perform. Because she has something like affection for the enormous, arrogant, extremely annoying dragon, and would prefer he continue to exist. All of these might be true simultaneously. With Zoe, the possibility that multiple contradictory things are equally true at the same time is not a logical problem, but a description of normal conditions. She has been home for a while now, and Runeterra has not particularly changed in ways she finds surprising, and she finds this both somewhat disappointing and genuinely funny. The two fanels she meets are interesting in the way that things are interesting when you know more about Olateris, the shape of what they are, than they do. Other aspects are interesting in different ways. The Fabida world is full of patterns to poke at, and games to play, and moments where the unexpected is available if you are willing to stop doing the expected long enough to find it. She is always willing to stop doing the expected. She has never been otherwise. The Aspect of Twilight made its choice in a moment when a small girl with a ball and a face full of datas. Cheerful defiance represented exactly what the universe needed. Whatever happened in the Go Shade? Thousands of years since, the Aspect has not revised this assessment. Runeterra contains things that require disrupting. It contains assumptions that need to be challenged. It contains the specific rigidity of systems that have been operating long enough to buoy a point. Forget they were ever something else. She is here for that. She is also here because the games are very good and the fanels are very funny, and existence, approached with sufficient irreverence, is genuinely delightful. Both of these are the same reason. With Zoe, they always are. If this story reached you, subscribe. Every week, the full lore of a League of Legends champion, told the way it deserves to be heard.